we'll do is, yes, we will have an overview of the charging stations. Okay, what is exactly charging station, what are the systems and subsystems. So this will give you an overview, and once you have an overview, then gradually you will be able to understand it in better details, and if you can read the literature in near future, so you will appreciate what exactly is a charging station. So it's actually, as such, if we see, it's not a very complex thing, but there are very many peripherals associated with a charging station, which makes the technology a challenging thing to develop. So here on the figure that you see on the screen, we have an EV charger. Okay, and EVSE is the short form for electric vehicle supply equipment, and EV is the electric vehicle. So if we see here, then we have the charger, which is on the left hand side. It's fed by an AC supply from the grid, and there is an outlet, and that outlet goes into the vehicle, and there are two outlets. One is the pilot and the other one is the power. So the power outlet essentially delivers the electric power to the vehicle, and the pilot is used for all kinds of communication that the vehicle and the charger would do. So this is the idea, and the battery here is inside the vehicle. So it's a generic diagram of a charger. So it can be an AC charger or a DC charger, that doesn't matter, but this is what the charger, any charger, would actually have. And then if we go further, so there are many a times when people talk about the AC chargers and DC chargers. So AC chargers, if you see the left half of the figure, so it has an outlet. Okay, and that outlet or the plug point goes directly into an AC socket, and all the charging associated electronics is inside the vehicle, the green box that we see here, and that's why we also call them as onboard chargers. So AC chargers are actually onboard chargers, and all the charging associated power electronic systems and subsystems are inside the vehicle, including the battery, of course, and the battery management system. Whereas in case of a DC charger, the output of the charger itself is DC, and it's directly fed to the battery. So they are known as off-board chargers. So all DC chargers are off-board chargers, whereas all AC chargers are onboard chargers. So now here there is something which we have to keep in mind. An AC charger, since it's an onboard charger, that means the vehicle has the charger related electronics, so it tends to be heavier for the vehicle. Whereas the DC charger, which essentially is an off-board charger, is lighter from the vehicle's perspective. Okay, so that's the big difference between the two. Now, if we go further into the charger classification, then there are various kinds of charging systems that one can look into. So you can have something which is known as a mobile charger. So if you have a mobile charger, it means that it will take around 6 to 8 hours to charge the vehicle. So that's the idea. So mobile charger is a slow charger. Then we have the residential chargers, so which are at home. So it takes around 6 to 8 hours again. So these are also slow chargers. Then you have public chargers, okay, like in a parking lot. So they are moderate chargers. Okay, so they are not extremely fast chargers, but we can classify them as uh, faster than the residential or the mobile chargers, and they take around 1 to 6 hours to charge the vehicle. And then there are public fast chargers, okay, which takes around 15 minutes to 30 minutes to charge the vehicle. So public fast chargers, usually we would find them along the highways where people undertake long journeys, and they would like to charge at a very small amount of time. They don't want to wait for 6 7 hours for the battery to charge. So in those cases, we will use public fast chargers. Okay, so these are some of the types of charging based on the usage. Now there is something which is known as mode of charging. So if we look into the mode of charging, then we have mode 1 charging. Okay, and it is based on the amount of voltage and the current. So mode 1 charging essentially means that we would be charging at 120 or 240 volts, and the maximum current that would be allowed in this charger would be 32 amperes. So that is known as mode 1 charging. Okay, and here you can see you would have a socket, so and then a plug point from the vehicle, and also a control panel and a connector finally going into the vehicle. And here the mode 1 chargers are usually onboard chargers, so that means all the associated power electronic components of for charging the battery are inside the vehicle. So that's something which we have to keep in mind. Then comes the next point, which is the type of connectors that we use. So mode 1 chargers would usually use an SAE J1772 connector. Okay, and the typical power rating that these connectors would handle would be around 1.65 kilowatt. That's an average. Or if you have a 220 volt system, so you can go up to 2.5. And if you can afford a 32 ampere current bus bar, then you can go up to 4 to 5 kilowatt of power. Okay, so but the typical range which an SAE J1772 connector can handle is around 1.6 kilowatt to 2 kilowatts. So that's the maximum power rating. So these are the kind of standards that people have developed around the world for charging the vehicle. So SAE J1772 is one of the most common standard that we have around for charging connectors. Then comes the mode 2 charger. Okay, so here mode 2 charger again operates at 220 volts. Okay, but then it has something extra compared to mode 1. So it allows smart charging. So whenever we talk about smart charging, it means that the charger can communicate with the grid. That means it can coordinate with the grid, the distribution network of the city or the area. It can also allow fleet charging schedules, and it can also allow integration of renewable energies into it. Okay, so like solar PV generation or wind generation, so all that can be incorporated. And if the solar generation or the renewable generation is higher, then it would take more power from that and less from the grid. So all this kind of coordination is feasible once we have a mode 2 charger. So if you see the major difference between mode 1, the previous one, and mode 2 charger, then the difference actually lies in the control algorithms and the way the coordination between different sources of energy, the grid, and the fleet is done. So it's more of a software enhanced charger, the mode 2 charger. And here for mode 2 charger, the connector is almost the same, but the power level that it can handle is around 20 kilowatt, so 19.2 kilowatt to be precise. But around 20 kilowatt is the maximum power, okay, for L2 connectors. Okay, and the current that it can handle is 80 amperes at 240 volt, and it has a more complex control algorithm. So that is actually the mode 2 charger. And then comes the mode 3 charger. So mode 3 charger is essentially, or mostly, they are DC fast chargers, and they operate at 400 volts. Okay, so that is actually used for DC fast charging, which we will be eventually having on the highways. So the chargers which can charge the battery anywhere between 15 minutes to 1 hour maximum would be the DC fast chargers, and we would classify them as mode 3 chargers. And if we look here, so these are some very high end or top of the line mode 3 chargers. Okay, so here on the figure that you see is actually a 50 kilowatt rated power. Maximum it can go up to 240 kilowatt. Okay, so it really is a very fast charger, and there are two outlets, so two vehicles can be simultaneously charged. And apart from the chargers that we have seen, so these are, so far we have discussed the charger modes based on the definition given by SAE. There are three more very famous standards worldwide. So one is the Japanese standard, which is CHAdeMO. and then there is a European American SAE combo standard, and then there is a Tesla supercharger standard. So Tesla supercharger standard is actually developed by Tesla and is mostly applicable to their vehicles. They do claim that other vehicles can also charge from a Tesla supercharger, but so far it has not been very successful. Okay, so SAE standard is very common. Japanese standard, the char demo, is becoming popular now, and European American SAE combo is also getting popular. And Tesla supercharger so far, to a large extent, is limited to the vehicles that Tesla produces. Now, there are certain very interesting features about char demo. One is that it's a very scalable system, so you can have a char demo charger with a power rating of 6 kilowatt. It can go up to 200 kilowatt. Okay, and now a new char demo has come out, which can even go up to 400 kilowatt. Okay, so you can actually cover all the power requirements from 6 kilowatt up to 400 kilowatt. So CharDemo is a DC charger protocol. That's what we have to keep in mind. So it supports off-board chargers. Okay, so that means you can directly connect the charger outlet to your vehicle, and it would start charging. Now, the other important part of CharDemo is, which certainly will come in near future, maybe in 5 or 10 years from now, we will see that feature, which is the bidirectional power flow. Okay, so char demo is actually a smart grid ready protocol. It can allow bidirectional flow of power, so it can be used for grid support, which is the idea of a V2G, or vehicle to grid concept. So char demo is already ready for that. People don't use it right now because the distribution network so far do not have the ideas, or let's say the legislations to allow such kind of bidirectional power flow. So once the grid operators would be ready with their legislations, then actually char demo technically is capable of allowing bidirectional power flow. Moreover, char demo is a smart charger because it can coordinate with the grid, it can manage fleet charging, you can integrate renewable energies into it. So it's one of the very versatile kind of a charger that we have around. So that's the beauty of a char demo. Now, if we look into a charger more deeply, okay, then these are some of the components that a charger has. Okay, so of course it has an input production system, so we call it as the eFuse. Then it has current sensors, then it has various relays. Okay, then it has DC-DC converters and isolated AC to DC converter. Then it has a digital signal processing microprocessor, or DSP microprocessors. Okay, then it has various ADCs, analog to digital converters. Okay, and then also it has various other sensors. So if you look here, a charger essentially is a power electronics system. So if you look into every subsystem of a charger carefully, DC-DC converter, it can be a buck converter, boost converter, buck boost converter, or any other topology that you can imagine can be used depending on what kind of vehicle category you are going to support. Then it has a rectifier, which is an AC to DC converter. Okay, and then it has a control circuitry to control the AC to DC and DC to DC converters, and the control is based on the feedback that we get from the battery. And then we have all other associated peripherals which any DSP microprocessor would have, like ADC and so on, and to allow the microprocessor to understand the input that is coming, and whatever output you give, so you will have to convert that into analog signals if required, and you would have various sensors. So the biggest challenge in a charger is not the theory behind it. The theory behind it is extremely clear. We all know a lot about power electronics, we know a lot about control algorithms, we know a lot about various kinds of sensors, which you all have done in various courses. The biggest challenge that comes with a charger is the integration of all these subsystems. how do I make sure that the rating of each and every subsystem is well thought of and it mates with the other subsystem seamlessly. Okay, so it's the integration challenge that we have. Moreover, there is an important thing which we have to keep in mind. All the chargers, a good smart charger should be able to communicate with the BMS of the battery. Okay, because the BMS will give all the information to the charger, that what is my internal voltage level right now, what is my state of charge right now, and based on all that you will decide whether your charger will do a constant current charging or a constant voltage charging, or will it go for a pulsed charging. So these are all the kinds of questions that the charger will decide upon, and all the decision is made inside the microprocessor, and accordingly you have to give appropriate pulses to the silicon gates that you have in the rectifier and the buck boost converters. Okay, so this is the main challenge here, is integrating the hardware properly so that everything works seamlessly and all the ratings are properly matched. And the second biggest challenge, and one of the most difficult things to solve in a charger, is the control algorithm. Okay, the control algorithm should be smart enough to take into account various kinds of exigencies. Now, the exigencies can be that you lose the power supply from the grid. Maybe there is a failure in the grid. So the controller should be able to take care of that. It is also possible that the battery suddenly gets heated up. Now, if the battery suddenly gets heated up, then you have to stop the charging. So all those kind of intelligent backup plans and backup strategies are what the charger has to develop. And that is a major challenge. So it's mostly the challenge of writing intelligent control algorithms. So this, the hardware as such, if you see every subsystem, it's not complicated. The complication in the hardware comes in integrating the various subsystems, and in case of a control algorithm, the idea of including all kind of contingencies, the backup situations and so on, are the challenges to program. And then the software becomes very big, and we have to make sure that it does not have bugs. So it involves lot of software testing and lot of hardware testing. So this is about the schematic layout of an EV charger. Apart from that, these days people are also working on extremely fast chargers. So they are not DC fast chargers, but we call them as flash chargers. And here in the figure you see one flash charger. So this bus actually is a trial system which runs in Geneva, and the bus is powered by supercapacitors or ultra capacitors, however you would like to call them. So the idea is that whenever a bus stops at a bus stop for a minute or so, the supercapacitors are flash charged by a pantograph. So a pantograph rises from the bus roof, touches the charging point, and a huge amount of energy flows into the ultra capacitor in a matter of minutes, and the capacitor is charged enough to drive for another 4 or 5 kilometers, and at the next bus stop it will again encounter a charger. So eventually you don't need to carry the heavy batteries with you, but it is driven by supercapacitor, so you don't need to have excess of energy storage. Maybe a 4 or 5 kilowatt hour capacity is enough, because every now and then, every 2 or 3 kilometers, you would have a bus stop, and each bus stop would be equipped with such kind of a flash charger. So that makes the cost of the bus go down. It also makes the weight of the bus go down, and also does not create a range anxiety. So actually this system, kind of a system, can run 24/7 without any need to wait for long durations for charging. So these are the flash charging systems which are coming up, and ABB is actually a world leader in such kind of a flash charging. Moreover, actually, Nissan has come up with a fleet of Leaf taxis. So Nissan Leaf is a very famous EV brand worldwide, and they have set up a fleet of vehicles in Amsterdam city, and there they have their own chargers, and this charger actually demonstrates the capability of fleet coordination with the grid, and to ensure that every vehicle has a minimum wait time before it can be charged, and once the vehicle is charged, then it can actually go up to 100 kilometers, and the charging is done within 15 to 30 minutes. So these are fast DC chargers customized for the fleet of Nissan Leaf. So that is the idea of this kind of a charger. Apart from that, there are other scenarios that people are working. Okay, so they are thinking that in near future we would have a charging system which actually is along the highways, in commercial setups, okay, like shopping malls or airports, or places like that, then in office spaces and homes. Okay, so the ones on the highways should be able to charge the vehicle in 15 to 30 minutes. In commercial locations, so when you go to a shopping mall or to a theater, you actually spend at least an hour or two. So there the chargers can be DC or AC chargers, and one can even wait for half an hour to 2 hours to charge the vehicle. So because there's no urgency when you are inside a shopping mall, you have good 2 hours to spend there. Then you have the offices. So again, in an office you can have chargers which can charge your vehicle within 2 hours, because a normal work day would be for 8 hours. So it's very likely that your vehicle would be parked for 8 hours. So even if you are able to charge it within 2 hours, so it's good enough. So there is no need to have a DC fast charger at office places and in commercial places. Okay, then the residential buildings can have AC, DC, both type of chargers, because we don't know which kind of vehicles people are going to buy. So some people would buy vehicles with onboard chargers. Some people would prefer to have off-board chargers for their vehicles. So it really is a personal choice. So we have to have AC and DC chargers both in residential areas. And there in the residential area, there is no need for any kind of a fast charger. Okay, certainly there is no need for DC fast chargers, because you don't need to charge your vehicle within 15 to 30 minutes. Okay, you can spend 5, 6, 7, or even 8 hours, so you can do an overnight charging. So these are the kind of mixes that you will have for various locations for the chargers. And also there was a group which tried to do a kind of a mixed charging scenario building. So what they did was that they looked for EV slow charging. So the blue color in the pie charts show the duration for which you charge. Okay, so in a 24-hour cycle, if you do a charging for 8 hours, which is slow charging, then your vehicle is available for 16 hours, and you can drive for around 100 kilometers. Okay, but if you do a mix of slow charging and ultra fast charging, that means you charge 8 hours slow at night at your home, then you have say 15 minutes or half an hour of two small fast charging or ultra fast charging durations. Then the availability of the vehicle is for 15 hours, because you have spent 9 hours in total for charging. So your vehicle is available for 15 hours, but your range is around 300 kilometers. Okay, and if you have ultra fast chargers throughout, okay, then in that case what happens is that you will spend just 1.5 hours for charging the vehicle, okay, throughout the day in a 24-hour cycle, and you would have your vehicle available for 22 and a half hours, and the range that you would be getting is around 300 kilometers. Okay, so now you see one thing is sure from these pie charts, that mixed charging is a better concept, because mixed charging, which includes slow charging and ultra fast charging combined together, or ultra fast charging throughout, so this kind of charging systems will give you a good range, and the availability of the vehicle would be highest if you have ultra fast charging throughout. But then to look very carefully, if you have a passenger car and it's your personal car, then do we really need the availability of the vehicle for 22 and a half hours? I think from that point of view, even if the vehicle is available for 15 hours and I have an assured range of 300 kilometers because of the type of charging scenarios that I would encounter, then this would be great enough. And that is the idea. Okay. So now the question comes for the charger infrastructure planners, is that how should they distribute the charging throughout the city? So if we see, the most optimal scenario is this middle scenario. Now if we want to go for this middle scenario, then if we look here, homes could have slow chargers which take up to 8 hours to charge the vehicle. And if we have in commercial locations and offices DC fast chargers, then that's enough. Okay. So if we make sure that most of the shopping complexes and office spaces have DC fast chargers, and home or housing societies have slow chargers, then we would ensure that every EV owner can have the availability of the vehicle for at least 15 hours and can have a range of around 300 kilometers, which is good enough, and it would be sufficient to remove all kinds of range anxiety that people might encounter. So these are the kind of studies that we have to do in detail. So of course, this is to give you an idea that what kind of thoughts should go into when we are designing or planning the charging infrastructure for a city. So this might turn out to be helpful. So we don't need to have DC chargers everywhere, but we can have a mix of AC and DC chargers. Okay. The second point that we have to keep in mind is that the chargers themselves should be extremely reliable. Okay. So there, the downtime for the charger itself should be extremely low. So the failure rates in the charger hardware and also in the software should come down to a very low level, so their availability should be extremely high. Moreover, we should also start thinking right now, even though in India we don't have much of EV charger, but very soon we will have them. But we should also start working towards developing chargers which can support bidirectional power flow, because if our charger today are not ready for that, and once there comes a regulation that bidirectional power flow is allowed, then we won't be replacing all the old chargers. That would be an expensive proposition. So it's good that from today onwards, if we start to inbuild at least the hardware and the software functionality for V2G, we deactivate them. We don't allow those functionality to be active right now, but as soon as the registration comes, we activate them. So that would reduce the cost, because if you make a good charger and deploy it, then its life is around 10 years very easily. So there is we won't be needing to replace it because of the new regulations of V2G. So those thoughts should already be there. It essentially means that we should be anticipating what are the new things that can come and plan the development of the technology accordingly. So that's an important thing that we have to keep in mind. Okay. And here is the summary of the various kinds of chargers. So level 1 can do the charging in 6 to 10 hours, level 2 between 1 to 3 hours, and then we have DC fast chargers which can go anywhere from 15 minutes to half an hour. Okay. And also, what are the various locations where we can put various kinds of chargers on the charging infrastructure and the chargers throughout the city and throughout the transportation network. So this was a brief idea about chargers, some idea about how we can plan them, and also some idea about the cost. Okay, so these are the total costs which are associated with various kinds of chargers. So of course, DC fast chargers are the most expensive one. So they should be put in locations where the charging traffic volumes are higher. So that means along the highways where people would make a stop for 15 minutes to half an hour, charge the vehicle, and then carry on with their journey. So the traffic volumes, if they are not very high, then DC fast chargers will not make any economic sense because they are pretty expensive. So even the cost factors have to be included when we talk about chargers. So in short, this was a brief summary and idea of the chargers that I could think up of.